Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson. Is there a sense, when you're up on stage, that you can just do anything? You know, 50,000 people out there.
There is a sense that you can do anything, and people have done anything. And when you just do anything, it actually, surprisingly, very regrettably, doesn't usually work. Most people sort of go, no, we paid like 30 quid to see a rock and roll show, not to see you showing off, you twit. You know? But every now and again, acts of madness seize you.
It happened to you in Japan, didn't it?
Yes, the strange cultural conventions in Japan, where whilst tying up women and sort of like covering them in rubber and beating them and things like that is perfectly fine in comic books and everything else. And actually seeing a naked human willy is the ultimate in taboo. So when it got down to the last gig and I took off all my stage clothes and was down to the jockstrap, and you could see suddenly you know, this expression of like absolute horror on every face was like, oh, I'm not going to do it. No! No, not the plums and the banana! You know? So it was kind of amusing, that sort of thing.
What about off stage?
Off stage? Plums and the banana off stage?
No, just bad behaviour off stage.
Bad behaviour. Well, that's usually it's usually exposing oneself and things like that to, you know, in states of drunkenness. I mean, you being a motor car chap, I mean, you must know the trauma of having a drunken rock star strapped in the front seat of the car. You stopped at lights and he's actually shifted it into reverse as before you realise. You know, you're saying going to the right hands, takes this Mercedes to the Holiday Inn, and you go back. You know.
Because you knocked around with Ozzy Osbourne, didn't you, off stage? I mean, that must have been chaotic.
Yeah, well, he was quite... I mean, Ozzy's a lovely chap, right? Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I'd had a drink, and it was a long time ago, and Oz suggested that we nick a taxi. And I said...
They have drivers in them.
And I said, Oz, you know... Because he'd come into the bar, and I was completely... In fact, they'd locked me in my room to try and I'd escaped out the window and gone out of the bar, and there was nobody in it. So in the bar.
In the bar. Right.
So I sat there and I thought, well, you know, when somebody comes, they better have a drink. So I ordered 50 beers. So I sat there with 50 beers, sort of going. So somebody came in, so I just said, "Would you like a drink?" You know, and there it was. So Oz comes in with the sort of entourage, and the first thing he said to me was, "I've given up drinking." He said, "I've stopped." And he sat down and went, "I'll have a double brandy, please." And I said, "I thought you'd stopped." He goes, "Well, I have," but he said, "I'm going to stop after tonight." So he had a couple of beers, and he said, "Listen, you could taxi." I said, "How are you going to do that?" He said, "Well, you call it, I'll distract him." No, he said, "No, you distract him. I'll let him over the edge." He said, "Can you drive?" I said, "Yes." He was good, I can't. He said, "Well, we'll go across the fields." He said, "I've done it before." So this was actually, I think somebody overheard our conversation and sort of and rumbled it, and he was...
And no taxi came?
He was led away. No, we never got the chance to do it.
But you did, on one tour, I seem to recall, get through 50,000 cans of beer.
Oh, that sounds about right, yes. Something like that, yeah.
But what worries me is you've got Robbie Williams today, okay? He insists that after the show, in the dressing room, there must be mangoes, dates and Evian water.
You get that in Sainsbury's,
What's happened to rock and roll, though, so that we've now ended up with people saying, "Dates for me, please"?
Well, it's gotten corporate and boring and generally dull, and it has lost an awful lot of its fun at the big sort of level, when you get the big entourage and everything else, and everybody's insured up to the hilt. And
but you've got Oasis today, okay? They're supposed to be the bad boys of rock, okay?
Yeah.
They were what? They spilt their drink, didn't they, on that flight the other day going to Australia? What were they doing on a scheduled flight? Why didn't they have their own jet with two naked Page 3 girls flying it? Because Led Zepp, didn't they? They had a church organ fitted to their plane. That's fantastic.
Are you sure it was a church organ, Joe?
Yeah, they had a proper organ in the plane. I can't think of anything I'd like to have more.
They had a swimming pool as well. No, a jacuzzi. Jacuzzi at the back. I think they nearly sank. This must be a first, sinking an aeroplane in flight.
Is there a difference between hooliganism and destruction with style?
Yes, yes. We once had a prank we played at the end of again, it was the end of a tour, funnily enough, and it was in Switzerland, and the chap was very proud of his backstage furniture. Particularly, you know, all the stuff he'd hired, the pot plants and the, you know, the various bits and bobs and the three-piece suite and everything else and how much it cost, and very keen shows the bill and so on and so forth. So it got to the end of the show and we thought we should make a donation to the audience of some description, some sort of grand gesture. So I started by taking the drum kit apart, actually while the drummer was playing it. and so the drum went and that went out. And you saw this drum kit suddenly being passed over the heads of the audience, and the roadies were all running in trying to get the drum kit back and put it back together. And he finished up playing with just his snare drum and whatever symbols he could hold on to before this raving lunatic, which was me back in those days, passed him out. So then we ran out of drum kit and we started on the furniture. So I ran backstage and there's this three-piece suite starts floating followed by the pot plant, and the promoter's doing his pieces, he's going, and suddenly going, it's costing Switzerland, sister on the month. It's plastic, you know, it's plastic.
Was Keith Moon the best at it?
Yeah. Keith Moon was an individual art form. I mean, I love the story about him and John Bonham. Can you imagine Keith Moon and John Bonham together,
terrifying,
right, in a hotel with Peter Frampton? You know, he of the golden, you know, ambrosial locks and all the rest of it. And the rumour had it was, well, the story that I got was that they decided to cut his hair.
With Frampton's?
Frampton, right, with a pair of garden shears. and Mooney's got the garden shears going, come on in, come on, we're going to have you. And Frampton ran up to his room and locked himself in his room, bolted, you know, everything else, you know, which did not deter them one iota. Because John Bonham went and got a fire axe. And chopped his way through the wall. Through the wall.
In a hotel?
In a hotel.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Dickinson.